Betty Johnson was shopping for groceries. She was looking at the apples, trying to decide which ones she wanted. Then she heard a voice behind her. "Aren't you Mrs. Johnson?" She turned and recognized the man but couldn't place the name or where she knew him from. "I'm sorry. I know you, but I can't remember from where or who you are." "I am Richard Sassman. I work with your ex-husband. I remember you from the company get-togethers when you were married to Raymond." "Oh, yes. Now I remember you. How are you doing?" "Not bad, actually. Things are going fine with me. I don't see Raymond at all since he married that younger woman he left me for. He hasn't changed. He still has one hell of a temper. He always did have that. Now that I think of it, I'm surprised we stayed married as long as we did. My wife left me while you two were going through your divorce. She found a man she says is more man than I am. He is a bodybuilder and competes in the weightlifting competitions. I don't see her now, and that's just as good. So, how are you doing?" "I'm making it. I haven't won the lottery or anything, but I managed to keep the house clean and make it to work every day. Things look a lot different when you are divorced, don't they?" "You can say that again. I haven't even thought about going out with a woman. I have an idea. Why don't we go for supper tonight, not as a date but to talk about how things change when you find yourself divorced?" She thought for a moment. She didn't think she was ready for a relationship yet, but he seemed so nice. He did say it wasn't a date, but it sure sounded like one. She finally agreed to go with him. He got her address and said he would pick her up at 5. He was in the cereal aisle when he realized he was going out with a very pretty woman tonight. He thought about what to wear. He wondered why he'd suggested they go for supper. He wasn't ready for a relationship yet. She picked the golden delicious apples and was wondering why she'd agreed to go for supper with him. She wasn't ready for the dating scene, then remembered he'd said it wasn't a date but just to talk about common problems both of them faced. She smiled when she thought about the fact he'd said it was not a date, but what was it if it wasn't a date? She thought about what she should wear. She didn't want to wear anything that looked like it was a real special occasion. At home, he looked through his closet and finally settled on his black suit with a dark blue tie. He wondered what he would wear. He knew he was nervous and wondered what they could all talk about. Several ideas popped into his head. If he only knew that at the same time Betty was looking through her closet trying to decide what to wear. She did want to wear anything that would give him ideas, yet she wanted to look nice. She finally picked the plain black knit dress, thinking black is for all occasions. When he picked her up at 5, he told her she looked stunning. He said her outfit didn't detract from her beauty. She was flattered and told him he looked very nice also. After they had ordered, he said, "It's been a long time since I've had the pleasure of talking to anyone at supper, so forgive me if I get carried away. Sometimes it is very lonely living alone, and other times it's a blessing as I don't want to be bothered." "I know exactly what you mean. There are times I feel the same way. When I feel lonely, that's when I try to think of the good times I've had. It always lifts me up in a way. I've never thought about that. That is a great idea. I will have to try that. I've been working on jigsaw puzzles when I get lonely. That takes my mind off of things and I sleep better then. I used to do jigsaw puzzles. I haven't done any in years. I'll drop some off for you. I have 1,000-piece ones up the yazoo, and I have a 5,000-piece one that took me 2 months to do." They continued to talk, and along the line both of them got off the track of where they thought the conversation should go. They were getting along just fine. They finished eating and he asked her if she wanted to stop for a drink somewhere. She said she didn't drink, and he said he would have felt funny ordering a soda pop anyway. Both of them were impressed with how much they had in common. He walked her to her door and they shook hands. She wanted to invite him in but was afraid she would give him the wrong impression. She watched as he drove away. The next day being Monday, he ordered flowers to be sent to her with a note saying thank you for the wonderful time. He made sure to tell them she wouldn't be home until after 4:45. He wondered why he liked her so much. At work, all she could think about was how nice he was. She knew she didn't want a relationship, but he impressed her with his feelings. She decided he could become a special friend, nothing more. 10 minutes after she arrived home, the doorbell rang. She wondered who it could be as she headed for the door. She was shocked to see a man holding a bouquet of flowers he said were for her. She signed for them and took them in and quickly got them in a vase. She was looking at them, thinking how beautiful they were, when she saw the card. She took the small envelope and read it. She couldn't believe it. Why did he send her flowers? Did he really enjoy it that much? She decided he wasn't kidding when he said he got lonely. She just had to call him to thank him. She dialed his number. "Hello, I just have to thank you for the beautiful flowers." "You didn't have to do that. I know they aren't as pretty as you are, but it was all I could think of. I really enjoyed our visit last night. It did a world of good for me. I was getting depressed being alone and no one to talk to. If you feel like talking, I haven't had supper yet. We could go somewhere nice and have a talk." "That sounds great. I'll pick you up in 15 minutes. She hung up, then asked herself, why did she invite him to go out tonight? What was she thinking? How is he going to take this? He was thinking, she sure is nice. He knew tonight was one of those nights he needed someone to talk to. He felt like a kid in high school going to his girlfriend's house to visit. As they ate, they talked and soon were laughing. This was the first time he had enjoyed a laugh with a woman in over 2 years. They both were becoming more relaxed with each other's company. They continued to talk about all sorts of things and didn't realize they were getting closer and closer together. On her front porch, he shook her hand and she asked if he'd seen the flowers he'd sent. He said he ordered them over telephone, so she asked him if he would like to come in and see them. He said he would. She showed him the flowers and he said they were pretty, but not as pretty as she was. She blushed and impulsively kissed him. Now, why did I do that? Maybe because it has been so long since a man complimented you. I understand, but I have to tell you that I really enjoyed it. There was a time I thought I would never kiss another woman, but now that seems so long ago. You have awakened something that I had forgotten about. I'm sorry. Don't be sorry. It was wonderful. I would like to do it when I'm anticipating it, but the surprise kisses are the best. She became worried that he would read something into it that wasn't there. She had to think of something to defuse the situation. Well, it certainly was an enjoyable evening. Tomorrow evening is my bridge club, so this is a busy week for me. I haven't been out 2 evenings in a row since I don't know when. Thank you for your company. He shook her hand and wanted to kiss her goodbye but held back. He left, and she wondered if they were going to develop a relationship in spite of things. On the way home, he thought she was definitely more emotional than Lucy, his first wife, was. He relived the kiss and smiled at how she reacted afterwards. He thought, maybe she is trying to hide the fact she likes me. Then he thought about how she had said she was sorry, and he knew it was a spontaneous act, not a pre-planned kiss. He knew he would never understand women or how they thought. All day Tuesday he couldn't get her out of his mind. She was really someone special and he wondered if they could continue going out. He kept seeing her face in front of him. This had never happened the whole time he knew Lucy. He wanted to see more of her and he wasn't sure why. It had to be how sweet she was, and how she listened to him. When he got home he had to call her just to hear her voice. He asked her if she wanted to go for supper tomorrow night. She declined and he said he understood. He wondered after he hung up if he wasn't pushing her too much. He decided to give her more room, thinking he was reading something into their feelings that wasn't there. Betty meanwhile knew she wanted to go with him, but she was worried that their relationship was going too fast. She told herself she wasn't ready for a serious relationship. The rest of the week each wondered why the other didn't call. On Saturday he went to get groceries at the same time he'd done it last week, secretly hoping to see Betty. In the first aisle he saw her looking at the week's specials. "Well, we meet again. How did your bridge game go?" "It was fun. My partner and I took 2 of 3 games. We did a lot of gabbing as usual. It is great to see you." They shopped side by side, and when they got to the meat department she said they never have small roasts just big enough for one. She picked a small beef roast and asked him if he wanted to come for supper so it would all get eaten. He readily agreed and felt a lot happier than he had in a long time. They continued shopping and she laughed when he loaded up on TV dinners. She said he must live on them, and he said they were simple to make and convenient to use. When they checked out she told him she would see him about 5:30. He decided he needed a new shirt so he stopped and got a sport shirt that he really liked. He was nervous and wondered why. He wouldn't admit to himself that he was in love. It took Betty over an hour to select what she was going to wear for tonight. She thought and wondered if she was in love with him but then decided it was just infatuation. There was no way it was love. He arrived with a bottle of red wine and more flowers for the table. She told him he didn't have to do that, then put the flowers on the table. They chatted as they ate and both felt a warmth they hadn't ever felt before. Both of them were afraid of how they felt for each other. Both of them still felt it was too early for a strong relationship. After supper he wiped the dishes as she washed. Then they watched some television. It surprised both of them that they watched the same shows on Saturday night. When it was time for him to leave she gave him a quick kiss. She told him she was going with the card players tomorrow for a shopping road trip. All day Sunday he couldn't get her out of his mind. He wondered how she really felt about him. He knew she wasn't ready for marriage yet and wondered how long it would take. Then he thought about the fact that he was wondering about marriage when she had told him she wasn't ready even for a romantic relationship. He was jumping the gun again. On Monday one of the girls at the office told him she was a very close friend of Susan, Raymond Johnson's new wife. She told him Susan had moved out because he had hit her during an argument. She said there was going to be a divorce. He couldn't wait to tell Betty. He had to tell her to her face. After work he headed for her house. He parked in front and rang the doorbell. There was no answer. He rang it 3 times and still no answer. He was heading for his car when she pulled in. "You are not going to believe what I have to tell you. Raymond's wife moved out and is going to divorce him. It seems he hit her during an argument. He always did have a terrible temper. I am not surprised that something like this would happen. She had to know before they got married that he had that temper. I don't know. There is so much difference between the two of us that he and I are not even close friends. I think he has maybe 2 people at work he is close to, but that is all. He knows most of the others can't stand him, so he avoids them as much as possible. That isn't a surprise either. Most of my friends couldn't stand him. I never noticed it until after our divorce and they told me. I wonder whose shoulder he is going to cry on. Probably some bartender somewhere. Well, I have to go. I just thought you would want to know. He left, and it wasn't until he was gone that she thought she should have invited him in. She smiled as she made supper for herself, thinking how he thought enough to stop to tell her the news in person. She wondered if he felt bad because she didn't invite him in. He felt good about telling Betty about Raymond. It was evident she had no good feelings about her ex. To him that was a good sign because if they got back together there was no way he would be able to enjoy her company again. Meanwhile, Raymond was visiting his favorite bar. He'd had enough to drink and was thinking about what he could do. He thought about Betty and then thought she would take him back. He decided to go see her. He was sure she would take him back. After all, she had never married again. Betty wondered who was ringing her doorbell and was shocked to see Raymond there. He asked if he could come in. She invited him in. Now he was positive things would work out the way he figured. My wife and I have had some serious disagreements and she moved out. I am thinking that you and I could get together again. I should never have left in the first place. I don't know what I was thinking. Don't go any further. I am afraid that will not be possible because I have met another man and have fallen in love with him. So you see, I am really not available. I am sorry your marriage isn't working out. She was very careful to not antagonize him. She knew he could get angry over the least thing. She was doing great at giving him the idea that he didn't stand a chance if he only realized it and left. Where did you meet him? Did he come into your store to buy a dress? I imagine you don't get many men coming into the store, do you? No, just men accompanying their wives when their wives want the husband's opinion of a dress or outfit. I met him in the grocery store. He is sweet and kind. He sounds like a loser to me. I guess I will have to wait for you to get over him, then I will be here for you. You aren't thinking of marrying him, are you? He hasn't asked me yet. I don't know if I want to get married again or not. My first marriage was a disaster, that you know. I don't think I want to face another divorce, so it will take someone super special before I consider marriage again. Raymond went on about how life was screwing him over, and she stopped listening to him and was thinking about Richard. Then she realized he had stopped talking. Ray, I am afraid I don't have the answers you are looking for. I appreciate you want to get back together, but that is impossible at this time. He got up and very slowly walked to the door. He turned and said to her that he wished her good luck in the future. After he left, she thought about what she had said about loving Richard. She had not admitted it to herself, yet now she had admitted it to her ex-husband. She knew she was in love. She laughed out loud at the discovery. She called Richard and told him they had to get together tomorrow night. She said she would treat him to a steak at the Copper Kettle Steakhouse. He said he would pick her up at 5:30. The next day at work, Raymond didn't show up. Just before noon, the news came that he had been killed in a car crash about 11 last night. He had hit a tree and was killed instantly. The police had said his blood alcohol was 1.4, which meant he was drunk at the time of the accident. When Richard picked up Betty, he told her right away about Raymond. When he said the accident happened about 11, she told him he had been to her house last night and had left about 8:30, just before she had called him. They ordered steaks, and when they were waiting for the meal to arrive, he asked what she wanted to tell him. She took his hand and looked him straight in the eye. Last night I admitted to Raymond that I loved you. I hadn't admitted it to myself, but I was speaking honestly to him and it came out. Now thinking about it, I guess I have loved you for some time. That is wonderful. All along I have been calling it everything but love, but I know now I love you also. I wasn't ready for this, but it happened. I have fallen in love with you. They shared a long kiss and were kissing when the meal arrived. The server said it was great to see someone enjoying themselves, and everyone laughed. You know, I have laughed more with you than anyone I can think of. When I was married to Raymond, there weren't a lot of laughs. You make me want to laugh and sing. I would sing, but I am afraid all the glasses in here would break. They laughed at that. He asked, so, when do we start to talk about getting married? I never thought I would say that word again, but now that I have said it, I feel ecstatic. I really don't know if I am ready to get married yet. I still have a mistrust that it won't last. When it's time, I will let you know. I understand. It is a big step for both of us to admit we love one another. I just got an idea. Why don't you come to my house for supper tomorrow night? Do you like beef stew? I make a killer beef stew in the slow cooker, and I will make some tomorrow. I love beef stew. I'll be there. What time? It will be ready by 5:30. Come early as I have an idea. They finished their meal and dessert, and he took her home. He went in and they rested on her couch. Actually, they spent more time kissing than anything else. The next day at work was the longest day he had ever spent. He couldn't wait for supper and to see Betty. He felt like he did in high school on prom night. He arrived a few minutes after 5. Betty greeted him with a kiss. Then she told him it was evening and he needed an evening outfit. She said she picked one out for him, and it was lying on her bed along with everything he needed. She led him to her bedroom and left him there. He looked around and saw the lacy curtains and the big canopied bed. Then he looked on the bed. He couldn't believe his eyes. Lying there was a black evening gown that had rhinestones on it. Alongside of it were panties, a black bra and a black slip. He saw the black lacy garter belt and nylons next to a pair of high-heel shoes. What was she thinking? How could she expect me to put these clothes on? Then he thought about her and decided to see what she had in mind. He stripped and soon was getting everything on. He got everything on and felt different. It wasn't as bad as he thought it would be. The bra felt a little tight, but otherwise it didn't feel bad at all. He was surprised when he started to walk. He had to walk different in the heels, but he knew he could manage. He headed out to her. My goodness, you look very nice in an evening gown. I was sure I was going to eat alone. I trust you and trust you know what you are doing. I don't know why you wanted me to wear this, but I am sure you have your reasons. Come on, sit down. Supper's ready. She placed a plate full of beef stew in front of him. For the first time she noticed him close his eyes and silently mouth some words. When she asked what that was, he said he always says grace before a meal. She asked him to say grace out loud for both of them. He complied and ended with a request that both of them be blessed. She couldn't believe how he was so comfortable saying grace. They talked about a lot of inconsequential things until he finally asked, "Why did you want me to wear this dress? What if I said I have 2 tickets to the high school concert and I want you to go along dressed as you are? I would go with you. I trust you and trust that you wouldn't do anything to embarrass me or make me feel uncomfortable. I love you, and part of that is a mutual respect for each other and each other's feelings. I don't have tickets, but now I know you'll do anything for me because you really do love me. I guess we can talk about marriage now." So they did.